It off in your finger. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 21st Caribou City Council meeting. All councilors are present for tonight's meeting. Invocation. We pray for our country at all times, that all citizens are safe, healthy, and happy. We pray for the wisdom for all those who guide and govern. Help this government body in every situation to know and do things that are right and just, with soundness of judgment in making vital decisions. We pray for the peacemakers, that the holy, life-giving Spirit may ever dwell in their hearts, and that the barriers of fear, suspicion, and hatred may fall. This we pray to the Holy Father. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Item number 4, the public forum. Does anyone wish to speak tonight? Gary.
I bow to the elder statesman here. Let him go first.
Well, no, I want you to go first, but my little summation may include a few.
Good evening, everyone. I guess I served inside this chamber for 6 years myself. And one thing when I was in this chamber, I referred to the Caribou Charter many times, trying to determine whether what we were doing was right and how we should handle certain items. But the one thing I didn't do in all that time, I never really looked up to see what the city charter meant. What was the meaning of a city charter? So I took the time to get on Google here a week or so ago and Google city charter and came up with a couple definitions. The first one was, a municipal charter is a basic document that defines the organization, powers, functions, and essential procedures of the city government. It is comparable to the Constitution of the United States or a state's constitution. The charter is therefore the most important legal document of any city. I read another one that was included as well. It said a chartered city, country, or municipality is one that possesses a unique set of laws that forms the legal foundation of its local system of government. Charters stand in relationship to a county, city, village, or town the same way that a state constitution does to a state or a federal constitution does to a nation. Do any of the councilors disagree with those definitions, just out of curiosity? No? Do any city councilors feel that it is not their duty to uphold the provisions in the city charter which has been voted on and approved by the citizens of Caribou? I take that as a no as well.
Would you mind repeating that again? I didn't quite get it.
Take the mask out.
What would you like repeated?
The last statement you made.
Do any of the city councilors feel that it is not their duty to uphold the provisions in the city charter which has been voted on and approved by the citizens of Caribou?
Okay.
In the city charter, under Article 2, City Council, Section 205, prohibitions, and I know when I look around the room here, probably everybody in here has got more education than I have, so I had to look up prohibitions. And prohibitions are a law or regulation forbidding something. it states the following: holding other office. Except where authorized by law, no councillor should hold any other city office or hold a position that has its salary determined by the city council or its designees. Caribou City Council approves the Board of Trustees for the Caribou Utilities District, who in turn set and review the salary for the Caribou Utilities Manager, which is Hugh Kirkpatrick. And I want everyone to understand, I have no problem with Hugh. Hugh and I have worked on boards together. I think we've probably agreed on most things on those boards when we were involved. I'm here because of the charter and the way the charter reads and what I feel it means. And based on the provisions of the city charter, I'm here by asking that Councillor Hugh Kirkpatrick is not eligible to run for city council and should remove himself from the ballot. If he is unwilling to do so, I expect the city manager to abide by the provisions of the city charter and do so. Under section 304, manager's duties, the city manager shall be the chief administrative officer of the city. The manager shall be responsible to the council for the administration of all city affairs placed in his or her charge by or under the charter. See that all laws, provisions of this charter, and acts of council subject to enforcement by him, her, or by officers subject to his or her direction and supervision are faithfully executed. I am open to any questions or comments from anyone.
Gary, if you'd have a seat, we go through the public forum part, and then we'll come back to your question.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Wilford. Wilford, you know what I noticed about Gary's comments? 5 minutes.
You can't do it. Hey, he's just a kid. I'm an old man. I'm slow.
5 minutes, Wilford. I'm going to ask you to start to wrap it up, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we get up again at another time? I'm here about this circulated petition. Okay? Now, me and the town manager have gone round and round with this. And as far as I'm concerned, this paper ain't worth the wording that's written on it, okay? It doesn't have an affidavit on it that tells you the reason why they want to remove this council member. Now, according to the legal counsel he got from our lawyer, they don't have to have it. But according to the State of Maine Constitution, we do have to have it. And if I can go back here. I was better prepared for this, but I got late here. Here's just part of the recall provision, the end of it. And that every signor had an opportunity before signing and read the full text of the recall petition and affidavit. What that affidavit is, the accusations that are brought against one of the councilors that this recall is for. Anybody signing this would have to be stupid because they're signing it with no reason. They're signing it because somebody is telling them their reason for signing it, okay? Have you read this? Any of the council read it?
New message is
Have you read it, Gary?
767-858-5867.
Okay. There's no affidavit here that provides a reason to get rid of this man. Okay? Now, another thing I want to say is this isn't only the work of one person. This is the work of some city councilors and some city employees that are involved in this petition. If a person wants to know who his enemies are here, all they have to do is look across the aisle, I guess. And you got a good example of who they are. In reading part of the Daily Rag, which I don't get anymore, the Rustic Republican, I see this letter to the editor here. Very demeaning, very insulting. I go back a long ways. I go back when the city became a city. My brother-in-law instigated this farce. This should have remained a city government. But his dream was that we'd be known as the most eastern city in the United States of America, and it would put us on the map, and people would come. Maybe that's why people are leaving, is because we are a city. Other things here is, the one who wrote the statement said she would not vote for any candidate who disrespects, disregards, or circumvents the charter. He's never circumvented the charter that I know of. I've known this man for a long time. This is the people's document, written and approved by the people. No. It's a document written and approved by people we elected to write the document, and we approved it by vote. And they missed a lot when they wrote this up. Now, we had a council committee all set up to put through for a vote. The people in this town some of the people in this town took it upon themselves to set up their own charter committee and stop that. We had collected signatures to get it to go to a vote, and it didn't go to a vote. Okay? So, as far as the charter is concerned, there's a lot of gray areas in it, like it says. And this is one of them right here. And one thing that came out of the conversation between me and Dennis is he had to agree with me that the charter has to be looked at, and there's some changes that have to be made.
Let's wrap it up, Wilford.
Yeah, okay. She goes on to say that he posts some filthy and vile language on the public comment sections on Facebook. Well, you know, somebody posted vile language about me on Facebook. I don't know why. I mean, I'm a pretty good guy. But, you know, they do that to everybody. So I assume that what he was doing is just reflective of what they did to him. He was just giving them the same answer, okay?
Couple more quick points, Wilford.
Okay.
We're 3 minutes over already.
I just want to point out that this here was very unfair, written by a peer on the council. And they should be working together instead of working against each other to straighten this mess out. And this here should be thrown in the garbage. It's no good without an affidavit. Look up the state constitution. They override this, okay? I told you that before and you didn't believe me, and you got counsel that said they didn't believe me either. But look it up.
Thank you very much, Wilford. Appreciate it.
Just one more thing, okay? I'd appreciate it if you'd give me one more minute here. Okay.
No, Wilford.
State Constitution, Section 6.
Wilford, we're done.
Huh?
We're
Okay.
done. You did a good job. Quit while you're ahead.
What's that?
I said, stop while you're ahead.
Okay. Is there any way to stop this right now?
Anyone else wish to speak at public forum? Hearing none, we'll close the meeting to the public forum part of the agenda. Okay, let's start with Gary, seeing how you went first. Before we open it up, in case anyone has any questions. Legal opinion was sought on this subject, was it not?
Yes, Mayor and councilors. We, knowing of the concerns that have been expressed by several citizens, I reached out to the city's legal counsel to get their position on what's been presented tonight. And the feedback was that there is no legal concern for, in this case, Councilor Kirkpatrick serving on the city council as an employee of the Caribou Utilities District.
Okay. Can we offer that copy of that to Mr. Aiken?
Yes?
So why don't we give the legal the legal opinion? I assume Rick wrote something up?
At this point, it's not in a legal opinion format. That is a very specific type of document. So far, it's a string of emails that has been gone
Fair
back
enough.
and forth between.
Can we give him a copy of the string of emails then?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Thanks. Anyone have any, oh, go ahead.
May I just quickly address Mr. Martin's comments about,
When we get to Mr. Martin's comments, we're sticking with Gary right now.
okay,
He will. Anybody have any questions to Gary? Hearing none. Huh?
Back up, Barb. Any questions at all to Gary?
Well, I think the point that he was making was he thinks we're not following the charter. And I think we covered it. From my limited ability of understanding the law, our lawyers in an email chain said that you could run. That's how I got it.
I got a statement to make, but
Make it.
Gary,
About Gary's deal?
Gary,
Yeah, go ahead.
that, first, thanks for coming in. I know you got a lot of signatures to get. I wish you the best. But I do have a very simple question for you. Can you explain how we got to $11.50 a head per capita on the ambulance, and the citizens of Caribou were paying $125 per head while you were on the council for 6 years as chair, I believe?
I am quite willing to discuss the ambulance, the past rates, present rates, and everything else. I'm not willing to just do it here in this public forum where I know I can be shut down at any time by this council.
Okay, thanks.
Because there are obvious, I'll give you a brief justification. When I was on council and the rates were at $11.50, that was the rate that the other ambulance service, Crown, was charging at the time to all communities, as we were. So that's why we were at that rate. If we were at a higher rate, we wouldn't have had any of the communities. We would have lost all the income from all the calls from those communities, and we would have lost money. At the time when I was on council, when I started and did the ambulance study, if you'll remember correctly, you said if we did away with the ambulance, it was going to cut the mill rate by 1.5 mils, I believe it was, or 2. And when we did the actual study, Mr. Morrell, it ended up that we were saving the citizens of Caribou 1.5 mils.
I
with the
disagree,
ambulance
but that
service.
was your study.
Yeah.
It's your story. You tell it.
Yeah, and everybody that was on that committee agreed. One of your very close friends, Mr. Camping, was on that
Good.
committee.
Yeah, he's a good friend.
Yeah, and he also agreed to that, so.
But moreover,
Anyway,
to
but
your
I would be
comment-
more than happy to get into a very long debate with any one of you that want to talk
Yeah,
about
but
the ambulance service.
We're going to talk about your comment about this, that had other communities been, charging more, were we just to follow what other communities were doing? And moreover, while you were sitting there making these decisions, the citizens in this town were subsidizing the losses we were taking.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
the citizens in this town were not paying $100 a person at the time. Look, I didn't start it, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, and that's right, and that's fair.
I
That's
didn't
fine.
start it.
That's fair.
I'm
And
quite
we'll put it
prepared.
on. We can
I'll stand here for 2 hours discussing it with him if you'd like. That doesn't bother me one little
Bother
bit.
me either,
Gary, you just got done saying that you didn't want to speak because you were afraid I was going to shut you down.
Yeah, well, somebody has-
and I've never
if
shut
somebody-
nobody down, Gary, to the point where people are mad at me because I don't shut people down. So let's just put this on a next agenda.
All right.
Can we do that?
Can I make one more comment about why I came here tonight?
Go ahead. Now, you're opening this up because now Wilford's going to have comments to make.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I've noticed he's been given 30 minutes in the past, 50 minutes, so.
This is your meeting.
No, can't make any more comments. Thank you, Dennis. Please sit down. Anybody
All
got
right.
any more questions?
It would have been to the manager's benefit, but I may make it to him privately.
We'll put it on the agenda
luck,
next
Gary.
meeting.
Thanks.
We'll put it on the agenda next meeting. Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Gary? Okay. Now let's talk about Wilford. Dennis, once again, did we get a legal opinion on the petition and its legality? Because, like Gary, Wilford thinks we're not following the charter.
When Mr. Martin spoke with me this afternoon, he had come in and asked first to speak with the clerk's office to get a copy of the petition that's being circulated. The clerk was not available, and he came up to my office, and I provided him a copy of the form that was a pre-populated form. And so what he's referring to is not having the affidavit and other things. What he has in his hand does not. It's not an official copy of the petition that's circulating, and I understand our clerk has that copy for him tonight, and we can hand that to him. But the petition affidavit and the form are both reviewed by the city's legal counsel in light of the state statute and the city charter as far as what we are required by staff to provide to the public, because the city staff is required to prepare the forms that go out to the public. And so in the preparation process, we did have the city's attorney review those as they were issued, or before they were issued, they were reviewed.
Do you think anything new has happened that would require a re-review?
Based on the information we've received, no.
Okay.
We've had our local attorney look at it. We've also had the attorneys from the Maine Municipal Association look at it. And the information we're getting back is fairly consistent.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Martin alluded to us agreeing that there needed to be some changes made to the charter. I'll just simply state that if the charter is to be changed, there is a process that can be done to do that. And for instance, these recall petitions and the language associated with it, there's processes that can be made to present that in an ordinance and have it presented to the voters to change in the future. But it would not pertain to this particular issue taking place right now.
Okay. Thank you. Now, you said you had a comment. Was that the comment you made about the charter? Okay. Any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none. Thank you very much, everyone. Dennis, can I ask you for a favor? I was kind of taken back by the accusation that we might not be following the charter for the last couple of years since I've been mayor. Would you review the last 2 years and give us a report if you think, in your opinion, as the chief administrator of this city, that this council, either this year or last year, has done anything that was against the charter? I know we've had questions, but we always followed the advice of the lawyer. I suppose those one or two of those things might not have been right, but it wasn't done on purpose. It was done with the advice of a lawyer. And I'd like to have that report at the next Caribou City Council meeting, seeing how there's an election going on and people are assuming things. I, for the life of me, can't think what we've done wrong with the charter. I can't even begin to think of what, but maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it. Okay, item number 5. August 24th, regular minutes of the meeting. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Hugh. Any, to approve the August 24th regular city council minutes. Any additions, corrections, subtractions, multiplications? If not, all those in favor? Motion carries. Unanimous. Thanks. September 15th, council workshop session to discuss the fire EMS rates with the other communities. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Hugh, second by Doug. Any additions, corrections, subtractions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 7. There is nothing on 6, right, Dennis?
Correct.
Item number 7, financials. August financial report. Dennis.
Councilors, in your packets, you may have noticed a few more numbers in this packet. This is the full detailed financial reports that can be produced by the finance department. Generally, you're getting a summary in your packet. And so I just want to highlight a few elements of this so you make sure we're looking at the same numbers. On page 11 near the top, you'll see the total assets of the city at $13.311 million by the end of August. In the past, I provided you a copy of that next line down, which is the cash. And there's been concern in the past about the cash on hand and the need to maybe issue a tax anticipation note. I can tell you that we're past that season when that would be a concern. And I'll present you this slide up on the board. I'll make sure you get a copy of this later, but what you can see on the overhead, the black line is the current year as far as cash on hand. And you can see that we did not dip down like we did in 2019 and 17 below the average. We've been able to stay fairly healthy as far as our cash on hand. We're currently, well, I should say, as of yesterday, or as of last Friday, we are almost the same as the 2018 cash on hand availability. And so we anticipate we'll continue to see a spike in our cash on hand up until the collection date for property taxes. And so that's just the status of where we're at as far as our cash flow. Again, we do not need a tax anticipation note this year, like we had the council approve last year. The page 12 of your packet shows our total liabilities. We're sitting just under $9.7 million. And, page 15 gives you our current fund balance. We're currently at, by the end of August, we were at $3.6 million. Again, in a healthy position as far as the cash available. Jumping down to page 25 is the last page of our expense report. And you'll see that by the end of August, we had expended 65.63% of the budget. And this is at 66% of the year. So we are trending closely as far as the expenses for the year. On page 32, you'll see that our current revenues were at 75.2%. The majority of that revenue is because of the commitment of taxes being reflected on the revenue side. Not necessarily that all of the city departments are well above their budgeted revenues for the year. In fact, as you get down through the report, you'll see that most of the departments are still trending significantly under the revenue for the year. With that, I would just point you to the September financial update report, which was issued last week. And that provides some explanation for what's happening with our revenues and expenses overall in the city. And trying to figure out how we're going to make things work by the end of the year. But through the month of August, in this report, we're still in a positive position overall. Any questions on finances?
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Hugh, seconded by Jody. All those in favor? Those opposed?
I'm for it, sorry. 20
Unanimous.
pages again.
Thank you, Dennis. Under new business, item number 8. 8A, fire EMS service rates for 2021. Page 45 and 46. Well, we had a meet and greet at the Wellness Center with the surrounding communities, and comments were taken. Dennis made a pretty good presentation, pretty simple. Numbers are there. They're all in the audit. Took them out. Things were looking pretty good. And then this thing called the virus hit. You look at the budget, you look at the crystal ball that Dennis is looking into, and there's a concern, and we'll address it. But the immediate task at hand was, what are we going to let the other towns know what we're going to charge for the year 2021? You look at the charts that Dennis has given, and you can see where, theoretically, it goes up, then it went down, we think, down a little more. Now because of the virus, it's spiked way up high. And any good budget, I would think, whether it be from this community or some other small community, would try to understand how can we do this in a level way so that you take these spikes out, which is a challenge because we basically work off of numbers based on historical data, and we're developing this new way of contemplating how we can look at it as counselors. And I put this on the agenda because we only have 90 days if we decide to change the contract. We have to let the other communities know the clock runs out at the end of this month. October, November, December. Yeah, roughly, give or take a day or two. So, I wanted to go around the horn and get everyone's opinion. And because I'm not afraid to be the mouthy one, I'll start. I guess after looking at the presentations and listening to the comments, even though the numbers show we probably should charge a little more due to this virus, I guess I'd like to float the idea that we keep the existing contract in place for another year. But I would like to hear what my other fellow councilors have to say. So, who would like to go first?
I will keep it the same.
I'll go next. I agree. 8 or 10 months ago we started this process. 8 or 10 months ago we started this process. I believe it was based on factual numbers. We came up with this number of 125, and there was some... This has been going around back and forth. I don't think we need to revisit this time and time again as we have been. So I agree 100% to keep the price the same. But next year.
I'll echo what Jody's saying. I think this is the first council to ever really begin to understand how this department works. And I think we need to keep it the same because now we do understand it and how it affects the bottom line.
Dougie.
I agree. Let's keep it the way it is. Next year, we'll take a look at it again.
Nicole?
I agree also with maintaining the current rates that we've had this year for next year.
Can we call this a consensus? So,
No
now the
more. So there would... We don't have to do it. We're just consensus because these will automatically renew.
well, now this is here's where we go.
Okay, that's the question.
Yeah, there is a stipulation that if we do nothing, it automatically kicks in. But isn't the professional way to send them a notification that we've reviewed it and we've decided to keep the contract the same?
Oh,
Isn't that kind of the way a business would do it?
Yes.
Chair will entertain a motion to set the rate for the 2021 year at the same.
so moved.
Second.
Moved by Jody, seconded by Hugh.
And that we send, and that we can note that we will send a letter out in that motion to...
Yep. Any comments or questions?
Just one question on clarification. So it actually cost Caribou $131.50, right? Now, you make that right from the bottom. Is what the final year-end financials is what it ended up costing Caribou. Page 9.
Page 9.
Those are unaudited numbers.
Did the audited numbers,
They're fairly close.
136?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 136. Oh, that's it.
And this is because of
Okay. Yep.
Okay? Okay. Okay, now I got confused. Where were we? First and a second, a question. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, here's another great one. 8B, caregiver retail sales in Caribou. I see, or I heard, that Mapleton is going to put it to a vote real quick. Presque Isle voted. We had a report from Dennis that some people are asking us about Caribou. There was a few inquiries. Either I heard it from you or from Ken or somebody that, and the procedure is that it goes through the planning board first for rules and regulations, and then comes to the city council for approval?
Ordinance.
For an ordinance. We have a public hearing on it?
Yes.
Got it. So we do it that way. I didn't know if the council wanted to initiate the discussion and ask the planning board to look into it. Oh.
I don't know. I just know I'm here for that purpose.
Yeah. We have a public comment period at the beginning of each meeting where we let the public. It's been kind of a contentious deal over the last couple months how to do this. So now's not the time to. We've made such great progress tonight. Let's keep it going. You want to go first this time?
Sure. I'd be in favor of a code amendment to allow caregiver retail stores in the city.
Doug.
Ditto. Same with me.
Nicole.
So I had a question where it says caregiver operations cannot be regulated by the city unless considered a retail store location. Does that mean the operation cannot take place? Or that means we have no control unless we recognize it? So
the state statute, under the state statute, they license caregivers. They license dispensaries. The city we cannot regulate caregivers. They can operate out of their home, out of a backwoods shed. As long as they're compliant with the state regulations, the city cannot regulate them. But as soon as they want to go into a retail location, the state says that the cities have to adopt a specific ordinance allowing them in a retail location. And our current ordinance does not specify that.
then I would support the planning board taking a look at it and putting some policies in place.
And this is still just for caregivers, not retail.
I assumed we were including retail.
These are some of the nuances of the marijuana law that the planning board will, I'm sure, get into. But there's dispensaries, there's caregivers, there's recreational marijuana, there's marijuana harvesting and industry. There's lots of different categories for these things. So if the intent is just to allow retail, that has lots of different elements attached to it. Caregiver retail is just one aspect that would be looking at.
But that's what we're discussing today, correct? Is caregiver retail stores in the city, is what it says on here.
Right. But again, if the council's interested in recreational retail as well, then we could have the planning board look at all of the aspects. Right now, we do specifically prohibit recreational retail in the city. That one is already addressed in our city ordinances. But caregiver retail is not addressed in our city ordinances.
Okay, so if I don't have a prescription or I don't have a reason medically, I just can't go in and buy my own. Because why I'm asking this is because when marijuana was put out to the vote to legalize marijuana, Caribou, by a big margin, voted no. So medical marijuana is a different story. Recreational retail marijuana within that, that's something that, until we find out how the citizens feel today, should we go through that. But it's going to be medical. You go in and you have a prescription or whatever, you need to take medical marijuana and you want to buy it, and it's sold in retail. I'd be willing to look at that.
Tom?
About a year or so ago, this council put a moratorium on the marijuana. Am I correct, Ken? It kind of fizzled out. We never really did anything with it. The difference between caregiver retail, and at the time when we put this moratorium on, we were waiting for the state to come through with laws and regulations. Has that happened? Sort of. Okay. The fact of the matter is that, look, you want to go out and smoke that stuff, knock yourself out. I'd be stupid in a corner for 4 hours, to tell you the truth. But the fact is that we still don't have a clear direction from the state. We still do not have a clear direction from the state on where each facet of this industry sits. Where caregivers sit, where retail sits, where growing sits. As far as marijuana, people are growing hemp left and right. As far as marijuana goes, for retail, is it for medical? And until we have a clear direction from the state, our hands are tied. Correct?
It's always evolving. I'm sure it's going to evolve again in the legislature this year. And part of it is we just have to try to stay abreast of as much as we can. It's, even their definition of what caregiver retail is a little...
I see shaking heads in the audience, but here's the thing. State law trumps us. It trumps us. So until we have clear direction from the state, it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't. Look, you guys want to sell it, knock yourself out. I don't care. But the fact is we have to follow our rules, our charter, and everything in between. And the way things are going around this town lately, the minute this council makes one little mistake, our heads are chewed off. And it's becoming ignorant, and it's becoming just the most downright worst thing. You know, I'm probably the youngest one in this room. I can get, well, until he walked in. Not you, Gary. But I can tell you guys, just gotta stop fighting the bickering. As far as the marijuana thing goes, until we have a clear, direct sign from the state, you know, it's all up in the air. So I'm 50-50 on it. I just want to follow the laws and follow the charter and everything else. That's all I want to do. You know, our police chief, our fire chief, their input, because they're the ones that see this a lot. So it's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Jody?
No.
I support sending this to the planning board and bringing it back to us and see what what they propose to us.
I'm going to...
Excuse me. You were invited to this meeting, and I am going to say something. We were invited to this meeting, and we weren't told that we had to pre-register to talk, or that talking points would be made before the meeting. I don't waste my time. I didn't come here to play games. I'm a very nice person, but I will not be manipulated. I have something that I'd like to say, and then I'd like to leave. That's all I'd like to do at this point in time. Please give me my American freedom to speak at this meeting as well.
Well, a change of events tonight.
called just being honest and having integrity.
Now, we're not going to let you speak.
That's fine.
You were doing pretty good until that last comment. You know, at some point in time, all these false accusations that come our way have got to stop. And, buddy,
I just wish I didn't waste my time and that there was a courtesy afforded to me and I was valued and my time was valued. You don't have to. If you want to be prejudiced towards me, that's fine. In any format you want.
Wow.
The state
Who are
already has
you?
rules. The state already has rules in place for caregivers and medical marijuana. He said that there's no rules in place. I'm supposed to sit here and listen to him speak without doing his own research. We could rent a home today. Are you aware, council, that we could rent a home in Caribou and open up a caregiver store in Caribou, just like Richardson's? We came with integrity. We followed all the things that we were asked to do, and then we're put in limbo, and our money's put in limbo, and we wanted to just do the medical part. You know, I think that you need to do your research before you talk, Caribou. You know, do your research. I don't want to be in court with you, okay? But we could end up there. All I did is I was invited to this meeting and was told that things were going to be handled in an efficient, effective, honest way.
sir, we don't make the decision. The decision right now is to get the planning board. I just got done explaining it starts at the planning board. We're trying to nudge them.
They told us that if we paid the money for the newspaper and it
What are
went
my
through planning
options?
board approval, then we were all set. Then we were told we had to go to the
What are
city
my
council.
options?
I'm just saying, in all fairness. Yeah, that's
Is
fine.
Ken Richardson in the room?
Yeah, Ken, you know we're telling the truth. We'll have to leave. Okay. We're being discriminated against. Thank you.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know, we're not supposed to bring it up. We're supposed to let you have the ball.
Have a good night.
Thank you. We'll be in touch by our attorneys.
You know, somebody else ought to be mayor next year and enjoy the fun that comes with this deal.
These
You
questions
know.
should be part of the public hearing in the ordinance. That's the time to discuss this.
And,
Well,
and
I
I want
thought-
to know who invited him.
I thought that's what we explained at
starts
the
at 6.
beginning of the deal.
Mayor, at this point, it's appropriate where a threat of litigation has been presented to the council to not discuss this any further in open session.
No. What do we got next? Next mayor's property.
Let's move to item 8C. Tax acquired property. So then, I'm going to take it to the next, we're not going to say nothing about this subject anymore at the council level until we figure out what that guy's talking about. Is that what you mean by we shouldn't talk about it? I mean,
At this point, it becomes a matter of potential imminent litigation and is suitable for executive session discussion, if you'd like to pick it back up there.
got it. 8C, tax acquired property at 137 Washburn Street. Dennis.
Councilors, this was a piece of property that was acquired back in 2018 through tax lien. Due to the condition of the property, it was never presented to the public for bid, recognizing that it needed to be really just torn down and cleaned up before we presented it for public bidding. So this property was demolished, or the structure was demolished earlier this year. And as such, it's ready to go back out to public bid. At the same time, we recognize that the lot currently is non-conforming in that it's too small for the zoning that's in place that's there. And so somebody could not build a new home on this lot unless they sought a variance or did a zone change on the property. We have had an adjacent property owner express interest in it. looking at the amount of taxes that are owed on it, as well as current outstanding obligations to the Caribou Utilities District. We recommend that the council authorizes to move forward with putting it out to public bid, and that the minimum bid be set for the property. Trying to get my mouse to work, I'm sorry. It's in the middle, $3,500. $3,600, thank you.
Motion to put it out a bid for 3,600. For the property at 137 Washburn Street.
You know, I'm still wound up from the last guy. I can't think here for a minute.
I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah.
Motion to put the property up at 137 Washburn Street for the minimum bid amount of $3,600.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Sorry, I didn't speak up.
Motion carries. Thank you. Nine A.
Mark,
What?
step out for a second. Bathroom.
Oh, go ahead. Resolution 9A, approving the Caribou Blight Toolkit Report. This is something we've been working on, started 2.5 years ago when I was in the parking lot of the hospital talking to a Caribou citizen that told me for 2 hours how bad blight was. And he's right. And he was so right that it got me going. And we started this tool, and we were making great progress, and we had a great group of people from the citizens that were on board. And along came the virus. And now we're starting to get our gear back up, and it's broken down to where there's things the city can do, and there's things the private sector can do, there's things that the service community, agencies can use, charitable groups can get involved. I think there's just about, if you have 2 or 3 hours and want to come spend some time on a board, I think in the blight area, there's a place for you. So we've asked Ken and that group over there to review and go through the information to get this thing started to nudge and get this thing working again and get things back up and going. Ken, right? Or did you want to speak first?
Yeah, if you want.
Don't both of you race up there at once. Hold them back, Chief. Hold them back.
Mayor and councilors, this document, it did take quite a bit of time of energy, not just from the staff, but we had several citizens involved, and definitely appreciate their input and their insights from even from the property owner to the banking industry and planning board members that were there. We recognize there are many tools that are available to us. There's many people that can get involved, as you have said. And this blight toolkit gives us some guidance. We recognize there are some tools that we need to sharpen in the toolbox. There are some that we need to add to the toolbox. And there are certainly some other opportunities, as if you have said, to get people involved. And we appreciate the council asking us to go through this exercise, because it did open our eyes a little bit to things that we can do better in this area. We are already ahead of this document being approved, moving forward with looking at some of these tools. And so we haven't just been waiting for this to get approved. We recognize this is a major initiative of the council and the citizens. And so we hope to be more progressive in moving forward with some of these things.
Thanks, Dennis. Ken, did you want to say anything? I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, we're all good.
All good? Okay. I'd like to concur with what Dennis just said. I have noticed a few more buildings coming down than I think I've seen in quite a while. I'd like to also concur with Dennis. I've seen some roads getting fixed up a little bit better than I've seen in the past. No, the roads are getting fixed the same. More roads seem to be getting fixed. And it's all part of blight. And this document that we received is a great tool. Now, I'm going to say this, and I do not mean this in a bad way, but if people think government is the answer to everything, then this blight thing isn't going to get done. This thing's got to be done by everybody. It has to be done by a lot of organizations. For people just to look at the Caribou City and say, you go fix this blight, isn't going to do this tool justice. It's going to succeed on the involvement of the community. I'm going to go deep in the weeds here. Someone said it takes a village. And there's a lot of truth to it. It's going to take a lot of people to make this work. Please come in. If you're interested, ask administration for a copy of this thing. And there's some very good points that even if you wanted to go in and take this little part of it, we can get you in. I'm pretty confident. So, thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Ken, very much. Appreciate it. I am still working on my side on the land bank deal. And
Is that part of that in here? Oh, yeah, I see the land bank.
yeah, and we're talking and we're trying to get some things figured out. If someone else has a land bank idea, bring that. It's all part of the process. There's no one idea that's been put in concrete yet. So thank you. This does not require a vote, or does it? It does require a vote.
Make
Sure.
a motion, we approve resolution 09-01-2020, the Caribou Blight Toolkit report.
Moved by Tommy,
Second?
seconded by Doug. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thanks. Introduction of ordinance number 5, 2020 series. An ordinance modifying the general assistant rates. This is one of those deals where the state will tell us how to do it. Dennis, would you like to give a brief?
Councilors, the general assistance program that we have in the city, the rates, or in the document of the ordinance tonight, they indicate the rates that we can provide to people for assistance depending on their different living conditions and their situations. And so these rates are passed down to us from the state, and they expect that the city will adopt these by ordinance. And because the city charter says in the ordinance that gets passed has to go through a certain process, that's why this has been in front of you tonight for introduction, and then we'll have a public hearing and adoption in the future on another council agenda. But as you've indicated, Mayor, this is one time where the state simply dictates to us, these are the rates that you have to utilize in your provision of this service.
One question. This is 2019, 2020. It's quite late in the season to be approving this.
That is a typo. This is for 2020.
For 2021, okay. So,
I understand Jane's name is still on the document too. So
Okay, well,
we'll
that's
clean that up before it comes back for action.
minor. I'll move to introduce ordinance number 5, an ordinance modifying general assistance rates.
Moved by Jody,
Second?
seconded by Doug.
We just need to introduce it, don't we?
There's no motion, there's no.
I just need to introduce it, right?
Just introduction.
Got it. Keep me going. So, go to public hearing. Do, at the next city council meeting, or?
After proper notice.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, report and discussion by mayor and council members. The mayor. Boy, that guy bummed me right out. Huh? Stop, don't talk about it. Geez, he called me a racist. Yes, he did.
Do that look again real quick with the mask on. I like that.
That's what mask is there.
Yeah,
to
that's
cover the
why. That's
expression.
why. You know,
Cover the
he's
expression.
smiling. He's smiling underneath.
Oh well.
Well, his eyes weren't showing a smile. No, I'm telling you, that bothers me. There's not too much that will bother me, but that one did. So you'll get a report on whether or not we're following the charter
Yes.
on any item that you so choose through the year. If there's an item that you think fell in a gray area, would you tell us about the gray area deals? Because Gary will say that we're not following the charter. And I just don't understand where it's coming from. When he was mayor, he bought a fire truck that was over, the council at that time bought a fire truck. It was over what the charter said that had to go to a vote, and it never went to the vote of the Caribou taxpayers. And the legalistic term we used, but it was a lease. Boy, that was the main, one of the reasons I ran, because I says, no, that's not right. And I'd like to see the legal opinion on whether that was allowed to do it. I'd like to talk to Gary about the wood boilers and how we're paying $100,000 a year for something that doesn't work. And once again, we didn't have to ask the voters because it was a lease. And yet when they don't work and you want to break the lease, well, you can't because it was set up as a debt. I'd like to see the lawyer's opinion on that one. And was that the intent? By just switching words that we can go into debt without asking the voters? When you're talking over $500,000, that's not pocket change. And that's $100,000 a year that this council is wasting on something that does not work. So, well, one of them works, but parts have been robbed off other ones and stuff like that. So I'm confused on why I'm being accused, why this council is being accused of not following the charter. But let's answer the part about that first, because that was his concern, just like it's Wilford's concern, that somehow we're not following the charter. Anything else from any other councilors? Doug.
Okay, won't take long. So it's no secret, there's a recall petition for me. Fair enough, it is what it is. I want to shout out to my father, who is a Korean War veteran. lifelong member of the VFW post here in Caribou. So what I have to say is a bit of a bumpy road for me and for him. They were collecting signatures at both the VFW and the American Legion. Dennis, my question to start to you tonight is, do you know if they're 501c3? Are they nonprofit status? Do they pay taxes on their property to the city of Caribou? Either organization. Excuse me. You know that?
The tax records show them exempt.
I can't.
The tax records show them exempt.
Exempt. Okay. So here's the snippet from Internal Revenue Service. To be tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, an organization must be organized and operated exclusively for exempt purposes, set forth in 501c3, and none of its earnings may inure to any private shareholder or individual. In addition, it may not be an action organization, i.e., it may not attempt to influence legislation as a substantial part of its activities. And it may not participate in any campaign activity for or against a political candidate. From my seat, they have both entities. So I don't really know where to go from here, but that is not tax exempt behavior. When they allowed that to happen, they chose a side. You chose a side. We're all big boys and girls. Now it's time to pay the fiddler. So if you could research that for me. It's quite an insult to my father for being a life member up there and to his service. Me is, look, you want to attack me, that's fine. Get out like the rest of us did and beat the streets and go to door. But they included the organization that he belonged to. Hey, all's fair in love and war. Thanks.
Not to argue one way or the other about the recall, but I do believe saying that they were collecting signatures at the library and the rec center, is that a conflict of interest?
That's not.
It isn't, okay.
That's public property.
It's public property, so it can be done. So, my only question.
Thank you, Doug. You.
Thanks.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I wanted to address, along the lines of what Mark was talking about, not following the charter, and so I've prepared a statement. An op-ed by a current city councilor in last week's paper says, quote, "It's time for a change. It's time to elect those who will work for the benefit of all citizens of Caribou, who will abide by the charter," unquote. For me, as a fifth-generation citizen of this community, working for the benefit of all citizens of Caribou means understanding no one is coming up the interstate at any time to save us. The solutions to our problems are going to be solved right here by us. Means not letting the fear of what we face becoming the limit of what we can accomplish. We have to decide what we want to become and make decisions which are always working towards that goal. Means if I'm reelected, I'm willing to continue to make difficult decisions that previous and some current council members are not willing to make. Council members who are not willing to make a difficult decision let personal feelings and personal relationships influence their votes, usually at a great cost to the Caribou taxpayer. August 24, 2020 council meeting, Resolution 7-1-2020, amending the city budget to remove $170,000 in capital funds from the budget. This current city councilor wrote in the op-ed, they state they will not vote for any candidate who disrespects, disregards, or circumvents the charter. But they will disrespect, disregard, or circumvent the charter and Robert's Rules of Order. 2 years ago, voting on the credit enhancement agreement for the Hilltop Senior Living Project, Councilors Terrio, Martin, and Jarrett had no problem voting twice in favor of sending the credit enhancement agreement to the state for approval after it had been defeated by a 3-2 vote the week before. On August 24th of this year, councilors claimed to be uninformed 2 years ago when the next week the credit enhancement agreement was brought up again and was passed by a 5-2 vote. A vote in retrospect which disrespected, disregarded, and circumvented the Charter and Robert's Rules of Order. Using politics as the crutch, this current councilor wants us to believe the Charter and Robert's Rules of Order are sacrosanct, but they obviously weren't sacred 2 years ago. They were disregarded. August 13th and 20th, 2018 council meeting. The Hilltop Senior Living Center LLC Credit Enhancement Agreement and Tax Increment Financing. This current city councilor who wrote the op-ed states they will not vote for any candidate who disrespects, disregards, or circumvents the Charter, but they will disrespect, disregard, or circumvent the State of Maine municipal tax increment financing rules. I was at the time and still am in favor of the Caribou Senior Living Center project. However, I was not in favor of the TIF package negotiated by the city. During the August 20th, 2018 meeting, I attempted to advocate for the State of Maine municipal tax increment financing rules and for the processes it describes and defines. That's what taxpayers elected me to do. The City of Caribou has a tax increment financing manual which contains the municipal tax increment financing rules. It's kind of a playbook which the municipality follows when this economic development strategy is implemented. The reason I did not vote to approve the credit enhancement agreement for this project is because with very little investigation, it was clear parts of the manual were either disregarded or circumvented. None more important than Section 3 application requirements for projects that include a credit enhancement agreement. This section requires the developer demonstrates a financial capacity to undertake the project and provides evidence in support of this capacity. Evidence that includes, but not limited to, a development budget and pro forma financial commitments of project lenders, and a project implementation plan and schedule. As a follow-up to this vote about a week later, Dennis provided the following response to all the councilors. To my question on the location of the deliverables required in this section of the manual, quote, to my knowledge, the city is not holding any corporate documentation as evidence to support the developer's capacity to undertake this project, unquote. I spoke with two of the developers before I voted against approving the credit enhancement agreement for a second time, and they confirmed these deliverables were not produced for the project. Just for the record, this disrespect, disregard, and circumvention of the tax increment financing rules will cost the Caribou taxpayers almost $1 million over the next 30 years. Freedom of Access Act is a state statute which is intended to open the government of Maine by guaranteeing access to public records and public proceedings of state and local government bodies and agencies. This current city councilor who wrote the op-ed states they will not vote for any candidate who disrespects, disregards, or circumvents the Charter, but they will disrespect, disregard, and circumvent the Freedom of Access Act. The following is from the State of Maine Freedom of Access FAQ page. Which officials are required to take freedom of access training? Municipal officers, officials of water districts, sanitary districts, hospital districts, among others. Can public bodies or agencies hold closed-door discussion? Yes. Public bodies or agencies are permitted, subject to certain procedural conditions, to hold closed-door executive sessions on specified subjects after a public record vote of 3/5 of the members present and voting. Can the body or agency conduct all of its business during executive session? Generally, no. The content of deliberations during executive sessions is restricted only to the matters listed in the Freedom of Access Act. By my estimation, the councilor who wrote the op-ed last week signed a non-disclosure agreement required by our Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees instead of holding regular public proceedings every year from 2013 to 2018 at least 6 times. Now, in fairness to this councilor, many, if not all, councilors before and during their tenure have incuriously, foolishly, and sheepishly signed our municipal hospital non-disclosure agreement. This includes the current and probably all previous city managers as well. I have never and will never sign a non-disclosure agreement from another public entity, like all those other counselors and managers have done for many years. This elected office is to represent the Caribou taxpayer, not to keep confidences for everything happening at a municipally owned hospital. In closing, the other two gentlemen this counselor mentioned in the op-ed can defend themselves, their philosophy, and their record. They don't need me to. But if this current counselor who wrote the op-ed is going to write that they're not voting for me because I don't follow the charter or otherwise skirt the rules, they'd be wrong. They're not voting for me because they don't like my politics, my philosophy, or the things I'm trying to accomplish while I'm a member of this council. What am I trying to accomplish? Reversing the status quo. Stop the budget from increasing while the city valuation keeps shrinking. Get all the departments to do what the library and Parks and Rec have done. Keep their budgets level while increasing services and programs while also increasing revenue. Other departments have had similar outcomes. Yet other departments are strenuously resisting this philosophy and new direction. My value to this council, this community, and to the taxpayers is to continue working towards making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Any other comments or anything from the... Dennis, it's important to me that we put this rumor to rest about us not following the charter. And really, I'm serious. If we've done anything wrong, you bring it up, you tell us. We'll back up. These wild allegations. That's a bad one. And it needs to be taken care of. Okay. Item number 11, City Manager's Report. Employee Wage Survey. Dennis.
Council, part of our discussions in the past have been revolved around really paying an appropriate wage for the employees this past. And I've provided in the past a spreadsheet that shows all the employees as far as the non-union employees and the comparisons with the state of, with the region and the state and national statistics. And this year we went through the additional effort of looking at the patrol officers, and wanted to just share with you tonight a kind of a glimpse of how our patrol officers' wages are in comparison to surrounding agencies in the area. And so in your packet is a graph that illustrates where our patrol officers are in relationship, as I said, to the surrounding communities. On the graph, Caribou is the red line. You'll see that on the left is the hourly rate from roughly $16 an hour to $25 up to $27 an hour. And then along the bottom, what you'll see is years of service. We went and looked at the surrounding agencies and their contracted amounts for their collective bargaining agreements. And so what we found as we approached, or we looked at Presque Isle, Halton, the County Sheriff's Office, Van Buren, Madawaska, and the average hourly wage for each of these agencies is shown there as a dashed black line. It starts out around $18 as an average for somebody, if you will, kind of walking off the street, not having their PIN, not having the academy training. And some agencies, for instance, Holton, their starting wage for someone in that situation is closer to $20 and change. The county sheriff's office is about $19. We are close to the average at around $18. And the low department was Van Buren. They're just a little over $15 for, again, somebody walking off of the street. As the time involved with a law enforcement agency increases and people get the academy training that they need, you can see that there's typically a steep bump up near the beginning of some of the departments. That's with the anticipation that in the first year or so, they get the training that they need to perform their duties as a law enforcement officer. And overall, you can see that after the first year, Caribou's hourly rate is generally above the average for the surrounding area departments. As we get closer to the very end of the time frame, or of 25 years, that's not saying that's the end of the time frame for officers. Some of them do work longer, such as the chief, who's been here for more than them. But from the patrol officers, Van Buren at the year 25 jumps up to over $25 an hour, almost $26 an hour, while Presque Isle, the sheriff's office, and Caribou are all around $24 an hour. Holton and Madawaska, as their officers have longer tenure, they start to cap out around $22.50 or so, their departments. So we wanted to just share this with you. We have, again, all the other information for the other positions as well, but we can also share another time with the council and discuss that more if you'd like.
This process started because we're getting ready to talk about union negotiations. And I asked Dennis to pick one of the big three: Public Works, Fire, EMS, and Police. And I asked him to show us where we stood. That's showing Dennis that we're paying above average. Does it not? After about the 5th year?
On an hourly wage comparison, yes.
I remember a couple years ago, we tinkered with it so that new people would get more money than seasoned people, if that's the right word. Veteran people.
To clarify, the current union contract, compared to the last one, there was a more significant increase to those with less tenure
Correct.
than those with.
That's right. That's how I meant to say it. Very good. And it looks like we could tinker it a little more, but we were making progress compared to when you and I showed up on the council and we saw this. So we're paying above average. You gave us this report on September 8th. Wait, September 8th, yeah. In executive session, because we were going over the union contracts, and I didn't think that this was executive session material, this particular graph. This is what we're actually doing. So I wanted you to bring it on tonight's agenda. On September 8th, we were told we were fully staffed. Was that correct?
At that point.
On September 8th, that's right, we were fully staffed. Since September 8th, we've had a sick deal. Explain to us what happened since September 8th. When we were fully staffed, we've lost two people aren't working?
We have a resignation that occurred since then and a medical leave.
Okay. The person that resigned, no? Oh.
We'll read that one, even though
We're still down one. Just for backfill for the SRO,
We're down one employee.
as of today.
As of today, yeah. This is a fluid thing. I get it. I get it. Dennis, I hear there's low morale down there. How about COLA? We've been keeping up on the COLA. If we have a 10-year running average, they've been paid more. Is that not correct? If we go back 10 years and take the average and put it against what they make or what we gave them, what the city's given them through the contracts, we've been keeping up with that, haven't we?
I would have to go back and check the last 10 years. I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Okay. Fully staffed, we're paying above average, and I believe we've been keeping up with a 10-year average COLA. Could be. I'll wait for the exact numbers. So, Dennis, my question is, where's the low morale in this department? And it's out there. So let's address it. Let's be big boys and big girls here, and let's talk about it. Where is the low morale?
I think the morale is nationally on police. It's a national issue that law enforcement is facing. We're fortunate we live where we live. I think the officers are frustrated, especially with the COVID, that there are things that we can't do, and that society just puts it on law enforcement more and more. Our station, the frustration of the police department itself is a morale issue. I think.
You're referencing the building.
Correct.
I went in this morning and there was a lady sleeping on the floor. And I went to pick my back up at 5:30.
We understand. Okay.
I
I
don't
understand that part.
I think the morale issue is a national issue with law enforcement. I don't think we're unique. I think when I talk to my other brothers and sisters throughout the state, law enforcement is being hit and being hit hard. Defunding, these words come up, and that's what they hear also. So I don't know if it's a major morale issue. Law enforcement goes up and down, and
I don't get it because at the public hearing forum last council meeting, a gentleman got up and said we're defunding the Caribou Police Department and that we ought to stop doing that.
and that's
I mean,
we can't control rumors, can't control Facebook, social media.
Candidates are running for office and they want to run because they want to stop the losing of essential services. Are we in jeopardy of losing our police department right now?
I hope not. We've been fortunate. We did have an officer resign that we had just hired, but I got word that we're hiring another officer that's trained, and we don't have to send it to the academy. We are down one officer to backfill for the SRO.
The officer that left, did he leave because of low morale?
No, he's the letter. He said that Caribou was too rural for him, and he was coming out of Rangeley. So, he had been out of law enforcement for 8 months. So I don't think he actually wanted to get back into it after I spent all my money.
Well, I'm back to the original question. Where's this coming from? How come? And I'll be frank with you, Chief. I want to talk to Dennis. I'll be frank with you, Dennis. I see some city employees saying these things. They're your employees. I want to know if we're following the charter. That's a very basic thing. I want to know why there's low morale down there. They're not my employees. And if I'm doing something wrong that's causing low morale down there, I understand we need a building, but not a $10.3 million building. And I like to present plans. But if that's the one reason, because of the building, I wouldn't classify that as losing essential services on anything that we've done here at this council. So please find out with the police department where this low morale issue's coming from. And you can start with some of the employees that are saying it. Dennis, would you, any other questions on this chart here? Because it looks like we're paying above average or keeping up with COLA. We're fully staffed to the best that we can do. I don't get it. Any other questions on this chart? I'd like to see that on Facebook. Would you please do Public Works for the next city council meeting, please? We're going to find out where this low morale's coming. It's got to be here somewheres. I just can't find it. We don't have to worry about the library. I'm not here. I don't have to hear rec. The people that cut the cemeteries. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and this is going to get me in trouble. That guy set me off today right off the beginning. It looks like it's coming from the unions. I'm probably wrong, but it looks like it's coming from the unions. But let's start slow, and I didn't mean to make an accusation like that. Okay. Report by staff and appointed officials. Staff?
That could be a good thing, too.
Okay. Executive session, item number 13. Dennis, is there either one of these that you, first of all, do we need to do any of these?
We can go to the real estate and economic development, Mayor, please. I don't have anything on collective bargaining at this point.
Okay.
Motion to go into executive session, 401 5.6C for the purpose of real estate and economic development activities.
Moved by Jody. Seconded by Joan. All those in favor?
So I stated clearly what
They'll interpret it. Okay. Thank you very much, all, and have a great evening.